All right. Here's all the attendees. Looks like there were 12.
Okay.
They should be joining. Okay, we can go ahead and get started. There's a couple people, everybody's starting to trickle in. Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's presentation. Sorry about that. We have Tommy Benz from Growth Lab talking about the SBA Mentor-Protege Program and how it works. So without further ado, I'll send it on over to you.
Thanks so much. Everyone, welcome today. Thanks so much for taking time out to join. We're going to talk today about the SBA Mentor-Protege Program and how it works. So if you wouldn't mind, if you could just save your questions for the end, we'll do a Q&A afterwards, and I'm happy to answer questions afterwards. If I can just get through it, and then we'll jump right into questions. So let's talk about the SBA Mentor-Protege Program. So we'll do kind of an overview of the program. We'll talk about Mentor-Protege. We'll talk about joint venture. We'll talk about timeline. So overview. So originally, there were lots of Mentor-Protege programs. The SBA had an 8A Mentor-Protege program that they administered. And that was just for 8A companies, and that was under the under the SBA. It was kind of the umbrella for went through all the agencies. But then there were other Mentor-Protege programs. There was DoD, there was DOE, DOT, DHS. They had all these other Mentor-Protege programs, which made it kind of confusing and difficult. If you were doing a Mentor-Protege and you wanted to work in multiple agencies, you had to establish a Mentor-Protege program in all these different agencies. So the SBA decided, hey, look, we need to create a program that covers all small businesses. And so originally it was going to be like one for small business, one for woman-owned, one for hub zone, one for SDPOSB, one for 8A. The SBA said, hey, look, you know what? That's too bureaucratic, can be too confusing. We're going to streamline this, and we're going to create what we call the all small Mentor-Protege program. And originally that was everyone but 8A, so all small businesses except for the 8A program. And then and so that worked really well, and it meant that you could be under the SBA Mentor-Protege program, and you could work under any agency. And then in 2020, the Mentor-Protege program folded in the 8A program, so then it just became the SBA Mentor-Protege program. So what is it? Well, the Mentor-Protege program it's a business development agreement under which one business provides another business with developmental assistance with the approval of the SBA. So the SBA defines the purpose as enhancing the capability of protege firms by requiring approved mentors to provide business development assistance to protege firms and to improve protege firms' ability to successfully compete for federal contracts. All well and good, and they do focus on business development, but additionally, there's also mentoring with all of the other facets, because as all of us know, as you bring in more business, you do have to have infrastructure to be able to handle that business. So it's also mentoring for your infrastructure, your internal infrastructure. We'll talk more about kind of what the details of that look like a little bit later. So what are the benefits? Well, benefits for the protege are that it allows the protege to pursue larger projects that may not be able to pursue on their own, because they get to utilize the mentor's past performance in their larger capacity. Benefits for the mentor are a greater work share. They can do up to 60%. They have ability to bid on contracts that you would normally be able to bid on, and any exclusion from affiliation, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So what is it not? Well, it's not a form of teaming. It's not set up for a specific contract opportunity typically. It's not an exception to the rules on subcontracting. We still have to abide by all the normal subcontracting rules. It's not an arrangement for the mentor to serve as a crutch to the protege indefinitely. And it's not an arrangement for the mentor to kind of take advantage of bidding work that they wouldn't be able to bid otherwise. So who's eligible? Well, both the mentor and the protege, there's some similarities here. So both have to be registered in SAM.gov. Both of them have to be a corporate entity. And then on the mentor side, they need to actually possess resources and the capability to assist. So they have to actually be able to prove that they can help a protege do better. And they cannot own more than 40% equity in the business. So here's kind of some of the incentives, I guess, that the SBA gave to companies to mentor is, one, that they can do up to 60% in the joint venture, which we'll talk a little more in detail later. And then two, they're allowed to own up to 40% equity in the business. Now that's not a requirement. It's just that the SBA allows that. And so that's something that the mentor and the protege would have to work out on their own, whether they actually want to do that or not. But that is a possibility that the SBA will allow that. And then for the protege, you've got to be small in your primary NAICS, and then you need to qualify as a small in your secondary NAICS if you want to develop that, and you should have work experience in the NAICS. Now that work experience, I think some companies read that as that they must have federal work experience. It's not entirely true. I think it's more of you must have work experience in the NAICS code, and that can also be commercial as well. So what are the types of assistance? Well, there's a few buckets that the SBA gives you. So there's management and technical, general and administrative, contracting, business development, and financial. So what I've done here is I've kind of laid out some ideas. These are what I see really commonly for these for the mentor-protege things. I do a lot of mentor-protege arrangements. It's one of the things we do with Growth Lab, and so we do a lot of mentor-protege. And so these are some of the things that I see many times is, you know, the protege, we talked about that it's not just business development, you actually have to build up the capacity. Well, here's where this comes in. So under management, technical, and general administrative, these kind of fall into that. So you may see like HR and accounting systems, you know, assistance in building out corporate structure and capacity, constructing techniques to effectively manage teams, onboarding process, communications tools, and then security clearance, facilitation, and support. This is part of what I see happen a lot with mentor-protege agreements is the protege is looking to get sponsored for a facility clearance. And so that's part of their mentor-protege agreement is that the mentor will end up sponsoring them for their facility clearance. And then under contracting, guidance and development or guidance and support to develop a contract agreement, legal documents, templates, filing structures, and then business development. And this is the thing that I think we see, you know, the most emphasis on is, you know, developing near and long-term business development goals, marketing, network, and relationship building, proposal development capability. And this can get broken out quite a bit, the proposal development capability, because I think this is the thing that many smaller companies need a lot of mentoring in is developing, you know, proposal processes, management processes, and learning how to build a pipeline, learning how to do capture, all of those things. And then financial, there can be equity investments and or loans. So these are just ideas. These are not things that, you know, this is what you have to do. These are just things. And the other thing is you don't have to do all of these buckets. If you feel like if your company is, I have some companies that come in as proteges that are actually fairly well developed with a lot of these things, but they just need more help on the business development side. And so they really just focus on that. or vice versa. So it's really up to the company, the protege, to determine kind of where their needs are, and then set up in the mentor-protege agreement where they need assistance. Okay, so how many can you have? Well, proteges can only have one mentor at a time, but you get to do up to 2 as SBA permission. If you're seeking a second concurrent mentor, you have to show that that second mentor is providing assistance that the first mentor cannot provide. Typically, I see this delineated more against lines of business. The SBA tends to, they haven't said this, but it just seems like they don't like doing it by agency, that they prefer more lines of business or capabilities. And then you're limited to 2 mentors over the lifetime of your company. So you really need to be thoughtful about who you bring on as a mentor. If you're a company that's looking to be a protege to a mentor, you really need to be thoughtful about who you're tying yourself to, because you only get 2 over the lifetime of your company. And each one can last a maximum of 6 years. You cannot be a protege for more than 12 years total. Mentors can have no more than 3 concurrent proteges. So there's no limit on how many companies a mentor can have over the lifetime of the mentor's company, but they can't have more than 3 concurrent proteges at a time. You can be both a mentor and a protege, but only if the relationships don't compete or conflict with the first mentor-protege relationship. So think of it as like if you had 2 separate lines of business. Let's say you did data analytics and you did cloud services. You could be a mentor to a company on the cloud services side, and then a protege to a company on the data analytics side, because maybe they're helping, that mentor is helping you build out your data analytics capability. So you can do both, but they can't compete or conflict. Well, what if it doesn't work out? Since you're limited to 2 over the lifetime, it's really bad news if one doesn't work out for you. So the SBA recognized that, and they gave companies what I call an escape hatch in 2020. So you have 18 months from your acceptance in the program to nullify the mentor-protege arrangement without penalty. So if you get 12 months in and you get through that first annual report and it's like, man, this is not going the way we thought it was going to go. We were really hoping for more, so we don't see a way out. We've tried to fix it. It doesn't seem like it's going to work. You can pull the plug on it, and you're not going to be penalized as long as you're within that 18 months. But you can't do that over and over again. The SBA is going to say, nope, sorry. You can't just do that for 12 months at a time or 13 months at a time and then pull the plug. You need to, if you show a pattern on it, the SBA will bar you from applying to the program for a period of time. So let's talk about mentor-protege. There we go. The mentor-protege agreement. So you need to submit a mentor-protege agreement to the SBA. This is really the crux of the whole program, and it kind of serves as a roadmap for how your relationship is going to go. So the MPA should assess your the protege's business development needs, and also infrastructure needs, management, technical, general, administrative. Specify how the mentor is going to address those needs. Set a developmental timeline for the delivery of assistance that the mentor commits to provide, and then also provide measures of success for each one. So you can't do something very open-ended. Like, I would really like the mentor to help me learn more about business development in the federal contracting space. That's not going to work, because at the end of every year, you're going to have to report back to the SBA whether you were successful or not. And so something that's super open-ended like that is not helpful. So you have to set what your need is, set the timeline for the need, and then how you measure success, and then because you have to report on that every year. An MPA can be approved for 3 years with an option to renew for another 3 years. You can have 2 3-year MPAs with different mentors. Each can get extended an additional 3 years, provided they received the agreed upon assistance. So the mentor-protege agreement, and just so you know, before you stress about filling this out or creating a document, the SBA provides a template of the mentor-protege agreement, and you just have to fill it in. So all of these things are going to be covered under the SBA template that they provide on their website, except your areas of support and whether or not you have another mentor-protege arrangement. So the agreement has to address how the assistance to be provided will help the protege meet the goals, establish a single point of contact within the mentor's organization who's going to be responsible for managing and implementing the MPA, state that the mentor will provide the agreed upon assistance for at least 1 year, identify how the assistance to be provided differs from any assistance being provided under another mentor-protege relationship, if applicable. And then the statements of you can terminate with 30 days advance notice, any changes must be made in writing, and then both date and sign. So again, the SBA provides this template on their website. It's not a difficult application process. The template's there and you just have to fill things in. So here are the components of your entire application package. So you have your mentor-protege agreement that you have to complete and sign, a business plan. So the SBA provides 2 different business plans on their website. One is about like 20 pages. One is a single page. The single page one is called the Lean Business Plan. I recommend using the Lean Business Plan. It's what I use for all of my clients' applications, the Mentor-Protege program. It just means that it's easier for the SBA to go through it. There is a backlog. They are understaffed, and so there's a backlog on getting these things approved. And so the easier you make it by providing a Lean Business Plan that aligns with the Mentor-Protege agreement, the better. Certificate of completion, you have to complete a 30-minute SBA tutorial on the program, print out your certificates of completion. And then if the SBA has ever found you to be other than small in the NAICS code in which you're requesting business development assistance, you have to provide your SBA size redetermination letter. Okay, joint venture. So typically your joint ventures are just for small businesses, right? So if either one of the companies are not considered small in the NAICS code that they're working on under the contract, the joint venture doesn't qualify to win the small business set aside. And this is part of the SBA rules with affiliation that prohibit small businesses from entering into a joint venture to bid on small business set asides. But, sorry, it's not advancing. With the Mentor-Protege Agreement program, you receive an exclusion from affiliation. So with the exclusion from affiliation, a qualifying small business can enter a joint venture agreement with any size under the Mentor-Protege Agreement. You can do a joint venture with a large company. So if you're a small business, you want to do a Mentor-Protege with a large business, once the SBA approves you, you are allowed to form a joint venture, and your joint venture will be considered small as long as the protege owns 51%. So the Mentor-Protege joint venture must designate the protege as the managing venturer and an employee from the protege as the project manager responsible for the contract. The protege has to own at least 51% of the joint venture entity, and the protege must perform 40% of the work performed by the joint venture and 40% aggregate performed by members of the joint venture at any tier. The mentor can perform up to 60% of the work performed by the joint venture. So remember we talked about how the SBA provided some incentives for companies to mentor these smaller companies. This is one of them. Instead of being stuck at the 51-49, which is typical for the prime sub relationship, the mentor can do up to 60% under the Mentor-Protege program. Now, what I see happen a lot of times is, that's a sliding thing that changes depending on the contract that they're bidding on. So what I see happen a lot is that maybe the protege with the very beginning for larger projects, that the mentor does that 60% and the protege does 40%. But then as the protege builds capacity, which is part of the mentoring process, they're able to slide that work share percentage over and do more of the work. And so you basically are going to negotiate this work share before you bid every single project. And you'll decide what you're going to do. But usually it starts out with the mentor. What I see happen a lot is the mentor does more at the beginning, and then the protege does more and more as it builds out capacity. So what does it look like? Well, a joint venture involves forming a separate entity that's owned by the protege and the mentor, and it combines the personnel, capabilities, and resources of both companies. This is the thing where you really see the advantage of the Mentor-Protege program. I talked to several companies that form Mentor-Protege agreements, and then they don't form a joint venture to bid work. And you're kind of missing out on the biggest benefit of this program when you're just doing the mentor protege, but without doing the joint venture. So the joint venture is where you're actually bidding work. And the joint venture takes on whatever socioeconomic certifications that the protege possesses. So let's say that you're, the protege is 8A, it's hub zone and woman owned. Well, the joint venture is going to be 8A, hub zone and woman owned as well. It combines the past performance of both parties. And this is where you see a big advantage as well, because I'm sure we've all looked at these RFPs where they say, okay, so you're allowed 5 past performance references and 4 of them have to be from the prime and 1 is allowed from the sub. But the sub is the one that has all of the good past performance. The prime's past performance is weak. And so the way the joint venture works is if you picture the joint venture like a jar and you take the mentor's past performance and the protege's past performance and cram it into the jar, that's the joint venture's past performance. So if you're bidding that same scenario as a joint venture, that, where you get 5 past performances and 4 of them have to be from the prime and 1 can be from the sub. If you're bidding this as a joint venture, both companies' past performances are combined into the joint venture, which is the prime. So let's say the mentor has all of the past performance and the protege doesn't have any good past performance. You can use all of the mentor's past performance references as the joint venture. Now, there are some contracting officers who push back on that. They don't like it, but as of right now, that is the rule, and that is the whole point of the program. So just so you know, that's where you see a lot of advantage. It's typically an LLC, and that's just for ease. Just to make it easier. I mean, you can do it as an S Corp if you really want. It just makes it more complicated. I would recommend doing an LLC. It's typically unpopulated, but also in 2020, the SBA changed some rules that allow it to be populated with administrative personnel, including FSOs. So if you're bidding on cleared work and you need to be able to, and both companies are cleared, you can go through the process to get your joint venture cleared, but the GAO just ruled actually last week that if both companies in the joint venture, if both companies have facility clearance, then it counts. So you can have the joint venture cleared and have an FSO in it, but you don't have to as long as both companies have facility clearance. It lasts for 2 years, beginning with the date of the first award. And this is the kind of confusing part. I think a lot of people remember the 3/2 rule, where you were allowed 3 awards over 2 years. Again, in November of 2020, that changed because it got messy, because there would be some joint ventures that would be racking up awards. And so they just had to keep spinning off another joint venture after another one after another one. So with this, the SBA said, look, your joint venture lasts for 2 years. Your clock doesn't start ticking until you get the first award. Once you get the first award, your 2-year clock starts ticking. Now, you can win as many awards as you want in those first 2 years. But once you hit the end of the 2-year mark, all of the contracts that joint venture 1 are carrying, those all run through the life of the contract. You just can't bid any new work with joint venture 1. But under the Mentor-Protege Agreement, you're allowed to form joint venture 2. And that's where you would bid your new work. So let's say you got your joint venture in January of 22, and you got your first award in January of 22. You could bid until January 24. And then joint venture 1 ends for bidding, but stays open to remain for any contracts that you won to lay out the life. And then joint venture 2 starts in January of 22 or 24, I'm sorry. And then you bid your new work starting out of joint venture 2. If it's an 8A joint venture, it has to get approved before you get an 8A sole source award. This is another change, again, in November of 2020. Lots of changes in November of 2020. If you got it used to be that any 8A award had to be approved by SBA before they could award it, and that included competitive ones as well. That's not the case anymore. Now you just have to get SBA approval if the joint venture gets an 8A sole source award. And that's just the way it is with all of 8A sole sources. They're continuing that, and it's fine. The great thing that from a streamlined perspective is that you don't have to get approval for 8A competitive awards anymore, which is great. So rules for the joint venture. So you have to provide for the establishment and operation of a special bank account in the name of the joint venture that's signed by all parties. Itemize all major equipment, facilities, and resources to be furnished by each party. Specify each party's responsibilities with regard to contract negotiations, labor sourcing, and contract performance. Obligate all parties to ensure the contract is performed, even if one company pulls out of the agreement. Designate that the managing venture is responsible for maintaining accounting and administrative records, and that they keep all original records of the joint venture once the contract is completed. That's for contract closeout later. So when the government comes up closing out the contract, you need to have all the records there. And then all quarterly financial statements showing cumulative contract receipts and expenditures have to be submitted to the SBA within 45 days at the end of each operating quarter. Okay, so what does the timeline look like? Well, here's kind of a sample. And so there's something here that's immovable. So I want to point out this part right here, months 4 through 6. This is the hard rock that doesn't move. The SBA is taking an average of 45 to 110 days. I'm sorry. The SBA is taking an average of 90 to 110 days to approve applications. So it is going to be like you're looking, that just doesn't change. They're understaffed. Originally, when the SBA started the program and not many people were applying, they were turning applications around in 14 days. That is not the case anymore. It's 90 to 110 days. And so just be prepared for that and be thinking ahead. So let's kind of walk through each one of these different pieces here. So typically, what we do when we're doing this is, when we're developing on month 1, we develop a profile and research the company. So we start with kind of brainstorming the profile of what like the perfect company would be. And this is the same whether we're looking for a mentor or if we're looking for a protege, is where do we want to go as a company? Which agencies do we want to work in? What strengths are we looking for in a company? Where do we feel like we can benefit from a company helping us? And then start walking through the known possibilities. I mean, most of us have been, who have been doing this, that we know other companies that we've worked with. And so we start with there. And then we start pulling in additional companies that we may not be thinking about. Month 2 is when we start talking to those selected companies after we've kind of whittled it down a little bit. And this really kind of goes into we talk about cultural fit, because this is really important. You're talking about potentially being almost married to this company for 6 years or up to 6 years. And so there needs to be a cultural fit, team members and firm leaders. There needs to be a commonality of goals. You need to actually want to work together. That's helpful. And then talk about how the relationship is going to work. And then once you've selected someone, then you need to create a strategic plan and a roadmap for the first 3 years of the program. And this is where I also do what I call marriage counseling for companies that have gotten into the Mentor-Protege program and have the relationships gone sideways. And the thing that I hear most, the reason I think that most of these get off track is because they didn't have a plan going into it. They kind of just jumped into it thinking like, hey, this sounds like a great idea. Let's do it. And they don't really set a plan together. There's no roadmap. There's no, and so what happens is like one side, like each of them have their own set of expectations going into the program. But they haven't really talked about it. They just have talked about like, wouldn't it be great if we won a lot of work? And so once they get in there, one side has this expectation that the other one's going to do all these other things. The other side didn't really plan on doing all these other things. And so things just go off the rails. And I think that's where I see most of these go wrong, is that people didn't plan ahead. They just kind of jump into it. So I would encourage you to really set a plan, set a roadmap, figure out how all the things are going to work in the program. And then you want to complete your Mentor-Protege application and business plan, complete the SBA tutorial, print the certificates of completion, and then submit the application. So once you submit the application, this is another one of those things that needs to be set up. And since you're waiting for 90 to 110 days, this is a great time to, not sit on your hands, but actually get ahead on this. So create a separate pipeline and capture strategy for the joint venture. This pipeline and capture strategy, it's probably going to look a lot different from your pipeline and the other company's pipeline, because you're combining the resources and capabilities of both companies. And so you want to create a separate pipeline and capture strategy. You can figure out okay, what are the opportunities that we're targeting over the next 2 to 3 years? What are how are we going to do capture on it? How are we going to do business development? How are we going to track it? How often are we going to meet? All of these things that kind of keep you on track and keep it rolling. And then go ahead and put all your paperwork together to file for your joint venture creation, because you want to make sure you're not wasting time, and you can just go ahead and file this as soon as you get approval. And then once you get approval, you create the joint venture. So you immediately file your joint venture paperwork, create the joint venture, open the bank account, and start bidding. So this is kind of a sample. That's the overview of the program and kind of a sample timeline. I wanted to leave lots of time for Q&A, so I'm gonna stop this and come back and just open this up for Q&A. So go ahead and fire away if you have questions. And if you raise your hand, I'll be able to pop it open for people to talk. Any questions at all? Oh, there we go. Yes.
Hi, Tommy. Thanks for sharing the nice information. There are a lot of updates here, so that's very good. We are actually looking, for a mentor, and a lot of things I relearned today in terms of what is the benefit for a mentor to look for mentee, like they're getting 60% max work share, and that's a new line of business for them. So in our case, we have met a lot of potential mentors, but nothing has been found out yet. Just because you don't know the person and you don't know who's going to manage that. So is it, when you look for a person you're reaching out to at the mentor, you're looking for who, like the program manager, or you're really looking for a specific, agency's project director? What who are you reaching out to get that connection going? What do you suggest?
So I would start, I get this question a lot, because most of the companies that reach out to me, I think the ratio of companies of looking for mentors versus companies looking for proteges is about 25 to 1 in my experience. And so what I suggest to companies that are looking for a mentor is to, number one, start with companies that that you're already working with in some way, or that you have some kind of relationship with. Also, I think a lot of companies, they look at this, I get this a lot, is, like some small IT company with like 10 people, and they come to me and they're like, hey, we're looking for a mentor. I said, great, okay, but what are you looking for? And they're like, well, we'd really like IBM to be our mentor. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that would be great. That would be awesome, but I don't think that's going to happen, because typically the very large companies, when they're looking for a protege, they're looking for companies that are like what I call big small businesses that could handle $50 to $100 million efforts to be able to bid those things. So what I recommend for smaller companies is, if like for small 8A companies, let's start with that. For small 8A companies, I recommend looking for a company that has graduated from the 8A program in the last 2 to 3 years. And that has not only won work by winning it with sole source, but also has won competitive work. Because it's only like what I call like short-term helpful if the company knows how to win sole sources, but they don't know how to win competitive work. Because if you're both 8A and you're if the protege is 8A and the mentor is a former 8A, and all they can do is teach the protege how to get sole sources, that doesn't help them long term to survive after the program. 60% of 8As go out of business after they graduate. So that's important, right? Is you want to make sure that they know how to win work as a small business. If you're not 8A, if you're hub zone, if you're woman owned, if you're STV OSB or just a small business, I would recommend looking for a company that has recently sized out of whatever NAICS code that you're in. So they've been successful, they've won work, and they've sized out, because now they're in a kind of a precarious position if they've sized out, because the SBA doesn't really give much for mid-level companies, and so like you get all this stuff for small business set-asides, and you're either a small business or you're Raytheon. And so those companies that have just sized out, they know how to work on the small business side, but they may have trouble adjusting to that mid-level tier where it's like Death Valley for them, of being able to either survive in full and open or form enough partnerships with small businesses to stay in as a small, like bidding small businesses. So I would recommend looking for a small business that is recently sized out, because they have small business set aside work that they may still be able to bid with you guys, as a prime, as a joint venture. And so all of that to say, really long answer, is start with who you know. And then once you have kind of gone through those options, start looking for companies within the agency or within a space that you want to be that's recently sized out and either has similar or complementary capabilities. I get asked this a lot of like, well, should I find a company that does exactly what I do or find a company that has complementary capabilities? And I say there's no right or wrong answer to that. I think that I think both are really helpful, and I've seen both succeed really well, where they either do the exact same thing or they do something complementary, and so they're kind of teaming up together to bring additional capabilities to both companies. So that's where I would start, and you can see who's like, I don't know, what agencies do you do most of your work in?
USPTO right now.
Okay, so I'd start looking to see what small businesses have sized out recently within PTO. The other option, I guess the third option on this, so it would be looking for mid-sized companies that have done well, have survived, and they're kind of in that mid-sized tier. A lot of those have not done mentor protege and they're not aware of it. I'm always surprised by people who don't know much about mentor protege. It's always really surprising to me that they've never heard of the program. But I would start with businesses, then go to small businesses that have recently sized out, and then go to the mid-sized companies. And when you approach them, you want to approach them with a like putting all the things out there that are beneficial to them, right? So look, you guys can do up to 60% work share under this. You get to use our small business capability, for Hub Zone or for 8A, whatever we are. We get to bid things that are in our tier, that are our set asides. And then also, I think it's helpful to kind of bring some opportunities that are coming up in the next 12 to 18 months that you can prime, that your company can prime, but they can't. Because then you can show like, look, we have our stuff together here. We're looking at opportunities further down the line. There are things that we could potentially prime that are coming up within PTO over the next 12 to 18 months that we could prime, but it would be a lot better if you guys were on our team and bringing an extra bit of extra capacity to our team. And so here's our potential pipeline with this much money involved. Here's how this can work. and this is why it could be beneficial. And if you can, what I found is like when you're approaching people within the other company, with small businesses, you probably want to talk to the owner. You don't want to talk to like the BD person or the program person, because they may not be as much help. So small businesses, I want to talk to the owner. With a mid-sized company, I want to talk to someone in charge. I don't want to talk to like the program manager. I want to talk to someone in charge, because the program managers may not understand this or understand the full benefits potentially to the mentor. And so I want to get further, as far up the chain as I possibly can, to people who make decisions, and have kind of a package together of like, this is, it could be like, 2 or 3 slides, doesn't have to be anything big, but just showing like, hey, here are the benefits. Here's opportunities that are coming up, that if we did a mentor-protege joint venture, that we could prime these and work it together. And this is why I think this is beneficial to our companies. If you bring a package like that, then it's a lot more than, man, we'd really like you to mentor us, and we can win more business. Because that's not appealing, right? It's not like if somebody came to you and said that, you'd be like, look, I'm busy. But if someone came to you and said, hey, I have a roadmap here of how we can both make money together, then it's like, okay, I'm listening. You have my attention. Tell me.
Yeah. Anything on the Growth Lab, right? Growth Lab, I heard about Growth Lab. I, in fact, reached out to them last year, but never heard back. I don't know if there is anything we can take, advantage of from there.
Yeah, absolutely. We do a lot of mentor-protege. It's a huge part of what we do. I'm so sorry that no one got back to you on that. I'm not sure what happened there, but I'm happy to connect with you. We can connect tomorrow if you want, to talk more. But yes, we do a lot of mentor-protege. We help with the application, and we also help with finding potential companies. I think that's the hard part, is finding companies to even talk to. Like once you have a list and kind of an idea for strategy of attack, then you can take that, but it's hard to figure out where do you even start of finding the companies. And that's something that we do. And I'd be happy to chat with you about that.
Super. We can do it tomorrow.
Yeah. If you just want to send me an email, I need to put my email. Can I put my email in the chat here? Yeah, here it is. I'll put my email in the chat so everyone can see it, and then happy to connect with anyone. Okay, my email's in the chat.
Not yet.
Show up there. Oh, that's to the host and panelists. I want to send it to everyone. Hold on. Everyone. Okay, here we go. Okay, there we go.
Yep,
right,
thanks.
emails in the chat.
Yep.
Cool. Any other questions? Any other questions? Happy to. We've got time, so anyone has any other questions, I'm happy to chat. Okay, well, if there aren't any other questions, we'll end a little bit early. Again, really appreciate you all coming out and spending some time and chatting a little bit about Mentor-Protege. My email's in the chat. Happy to connect with anyone offline. So just shoot me an email and we can talk more. But thank you all so much. Have a great day. And thanks again to the HubZone Council for this. This is good.
Thank you for taking time out of your day and hosting this. And we really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you all.
Thanks. Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.